If you believe in minority rights, you don't believe in democracy unfettered. If power is concentrated too much, that's a problem, so what if we were to spread it out really wide? Well, that's the general idea behind democracy. You want the voice of the people to be the thing that governs. But people tend to disagree, and so what do you do with that? Because you can't get unanimity. You can't get everybody on exactly the same page. And so what we've created is the idea of democracy, which is 51%. You get a majority. Most people think this, most people are not wrong, so we're just going to go with that and make that the law. Well, what about the 49? When you talk about democracy, are you talking about like truth and rights and all this good stuff and like people having the right to vote and participate in their government and to distribute power? I mean, all those things are good things. But that's not what democracy means. Technically speaking, democracy means 51% or greater are the ones making the decisions, which means the 49% or fewer are not making the decisions. Man, that could go wrong. If you believe in minority rights, you don't believe in democracy unfettered. The idea of protecting a minority, meaning anyone who's not part of the 51% on a particular issue, is odd. And the thing about democracy and the danger of democracy is mob rule. Benjamin Franklin had a quote where he said that democracy is 2 wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for dinner. If you have 2 wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for dinner, it's probably going to be the lamb, and the majority will be able to tyrannize and eat the minority. And that's bad too. And so what do? This tension, this minority-hating tension, is at the core of the idea of democracy. But we have really warm and fuzzy ideas, warm fuzzy feelings when we think about democracy. Democracy is truth, justice in the American way. It's like a Superman concept. It's awesome. It's a good thing. It's something we want to spread to the world, or at least we talk like it is. So what gives? Like, how does it actually work? Well, here's the way I think it actually works. In order for you to have democracy function in a way that is non-tyrannical, you need to have an unspoken list of laws that you are not allowed to make. That list, in the case of the 2 wolves and the lamb, is something like, we're not allowed to make laws about eating other members of this thing, which means all members of the society are bound in their power that they will follow a certain restraint. That in my best interest, because someday I'm going to be part of the 49% that get outvoted, I need to have restraints in place that lock down everyone's power so no one gets to make any laws about eating somebody else, or taking their property, or lynching them, or whatever it is. This is the concept of an inalienable right, something that nobody has the authority to take away from you. In the United States of America, we have the Bill of Rights, which is a codified list of some, not all, of these rights. There's a giant caveat in Amendments 9 and 10 that says, hey, there's more of these, there's lots more of these. We've just listed a few to make explicitly sure that these ones don't get trampled on. And basically what we've said is, these things are off limits. No one is allowed to make any law that infringes on these because we are concerned with minorities. The thing about rights is that fundamentally every right is an obligation on everyone else. If I say that I have a right to life, that is an obligation for everyone else to not kill me. If I have a right to education, then everyone else has an obligation to not hinder my education or possibly to provide me with one. There are negative rights and positive rights, things that no one is allowed to do to me, and then things that I have a right to, so everyone, or at least somebody, has to give it to me. And those are of a different moral quality. We'll just leave that to the side. Let's just talk about the negative ones for now. But these negative rights are basically things where there is a universal obligation for everyone else to not exercise power to hurt me. Can other people hurt me? Yeah. I mean, anybody with a crowbar. But we believe in our society, we have a list that we've all kind of accepted of rights, which is an obligation on everyone else to restrain their power and to not do. The funny thing about democracy, though, is that that tension, that minority-hating anti-49% tension, is always present. And so there are cultural norms, meaning this list of things that are off limits, that have to be maintained. And that list has to update because people get creative. And so we constantly need to think, if this were to flop, if on this issue we were to flop the other way, particularly on close issues, because those are the most contentious ones, we need to think, if hypothetically speaking, the other side that's currently the minority were to get this much power, would I want them to be allowed to make a decision about this in this way? And without that list, democracy can't function. If democracy is unfettered, and it's just allowed to make any decision about anything, it will turn into tyranny that fast. The only way democracy ever works is if the things that the democratic process are allowed to make decisions about is limited. And the limits we call rights. So, the downside of democracy is it can tyrannize minorities. If you believe in minority rights, you do not believe in unfettered democracy. And if you believe in unfettered democracy, you don't believe in minority rights. If this gave you something to think about in regards to democracy and the whole, feel free to share this video with your friends. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe below and hit the like button. Thank you very much.